My friends, Texas has yet to learn submission to any oppression, come from what source it may. That was said by the first president of the Republic of Texas, Sam Houston. We're in the Sam Houston building directly adjacent to the Capitol on San Jacinto Day. And I don't need to give any more introduction than to say that the new governor of Texas is with us, Greg Abbott. Welcome to Pratt on Texas.
Great to be with you in person.
I'll tell you, it is nice to be here on San Jacinto Day. It just means, so I was telling you before the show, it means so much that Texas, if you're a Texan, these things mean more to you than you can explain to people outside of the universe.
Texas, more than any other state, is synonymous with liberty. Today I gave a speech on this very subject about the meaning of today, because it was on this day so many years ago when Texas won its liberty at the Battle of San Jacinto, and we have been the freest country and state ever since, the hallmark of freedom that other states look to. And as I made clear, you know, the United States of America is the indispensable nation in this world, and Texas is the indispensable state in this nation.
And that's right. And you folks listening in southern Oklahoma and across eastern New Mexico, you know it's true. And you listen every day to Pratt on Texas. You know we're not just bragging. There's some truth to it, because many of you send me emails just so frustrated, particularly in New Mexico with your state government. Oklahoma's a different matter. But we are proud to be Texans. And it's because it's not a chauvinistic thing about Texas. It's it's understanding that people came here and gave up a lot. Those guys that stayed at the Alamo knew they were going to lose. They could have left. These guys were here to seek fortunes, and they knew they were going to lose. Some of them had wives and kids, and they said, no, we're going to stay. Looking out at an army that was, vastly greater, knowing they were going to die. I mean, would we be willing to do that? And then all those months, the runaway scrape, the terrible criticism of Sam Houston, the pillaring of all these founders, and then all of a sudden, siesta time, out there in the middle of the afternoon, no sentries posted, and the dictator himself finds himself rounded up in just a matter of minutes. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's something that sometimes people lose sight of as they get comfortable on their couches. They forget about the real meaning of give me liberty or give me death. It's what Patrick Henry said back when we were beginning our revolution for the United States of America. It is also exactly what Colonel Travis said at the Battle of the Alamo, knowing he was facing certain death. Liberty is so important. It is worth dying for. And liberty is what Texas stands for and what we fight for every single day here. And one quick point about that, and that is what liberty really is keeping us free from government itself. I made a point earlier today that our biggest threat to liberty is, as Ronald Reagan made a point many years ago, we're never more than one generation away from losing our freedom. We face that generation today, and the threat to our freedom is not from a foreign nation. The threat to our freedom is from our own federal government, from our own leaders. And so we have to fight more today than ever before to protect our freedom and our liberty.
Well, good point. And I think I constantly explain to people, though, the federal government didn't become what it became automatically. The people who are there reflect the country. They start in our local communities. And we often don't say no early enough until they work their way up the ladder. You've been a leader this time talking about local government. There's a lot of this, my audience gets it, this local control stuff. A lot of that's just smoke. The fact is, local government doesn't have a right to take away people's liberty. Local government can be as oppressive or even more oppressive than any other government. And right now, there's a lot of movement in the legislature coming under great criticism from the big city newspapers to make sure that the state keeps people's personal liberties in place. You've been a leader on that. Talk about that for a moment.
I made clear about a danger Texas is facing, and that is Texas is being Californiaized by our cities, by the regulations that are being piled up at the local level. And listen, it doesn't matter if it's local, state, or federal. Regulations can be heavy-handed, can cost people a whole lot of money, but it also cuts into the fundamental rights and liberties we have as Americans, which is the right to private property ownership. Think about this. In cities across the state of Texas, they now have rules and regulations that have come out where cities claim an ownership right in the trees that you have on your own property that you bought. That is offensive to the fundamental principles of what liberty and private property ownership are all about. And I don't care if it's the federal government, whom I sued 31 times as the Attorney General, or a local government. Regulations that cost money, that dig into people's liberty, are wrong.
Well, you know, we were in Dallas this weekend for something and went somewhere and purchased something, and then they wanted to charge us the 5-cent tax to get a paper bag. Now, they had a stack of paper bags there, couldn't have the plastic anymore. And I said, being me, I said no. And actually, being me, normally I would have left everything at the cash register and made them issue a refund and walked away, because that was my plan, and I'd forgotten about it when I went in there. But nevertheless, I said no. I carried it out. You know, they wanted to tax me for the retailer to put things in a bag so I can carry them. These things are just completely out of control across the state. And I don't get the idea that, well, local control means somehow you have less liberty because you live in this particular municipal corporation.
And part of the deal is, when cities come out with regulations, it's doing more than governing your life, which saps your liberty. It's also taxing your life. It costs more money for the bags they're creating, and they are charging you that money. Mm-hmm. And the more government grows, the more your liberty shrinks. Think about the way your liberty is shrinking because of the fact that this nation is $18 trillion in debt. That is why Texas is working on finding ways to cut our budget, to live within a more lean budget with less government, and why we are returning tax dollars to the taxpayers in the state of Texas by cutting taxes.
Perfect segue, Governor, because what I wanted to, we're visiting with Governor Greg Abbott here on San Jacinto Day, folks, live from the Sam Houston building right next to the state capitol. The tax cuts, you've finally spoken a little bit about that, the battle between the Senate and the House. I've been working pretty strongly at pushing the Senate version. One, nobody's ever asked me to say, calls the show and says, cut my sales tax. They're mad about property taxes. I saw you all released your taxes. You pay a hell of a lot of property taxes. It's outrageous. But the biggest problem is this margins tax. You know, most people don't pay attention to the legislature until it's in session. Including local businessmen and people that will give money to campaigns, but they don't want to be involved in it. I've been around this my whole life. There's one issue for the last many, many years that I still get nailed to the wall on, whether I'm at a social event, you know, because I'm like an elected official, I'm seen as a political guy. And that is this margins tax. Small to mid-sized business people coming in, and it never has gone away. It is the only issue that I can say that about that hasn't changed, you know, a new issue of the day. This one we get hammered on. We need to move towards phasing it out and getting rid of it. It's pernicious. It was a bad idea. I sat in the lieutenant governor's dining room telling him his version was as bad as Craddock's version on the rework. They don't work. The problem I've got with the House has a bigger cut, but it still leaves the compliance cost on all these small businesses. That compliance cost is actually worse than the tax for some of them, whereas the Senate version, a little bit less of a rate cut, and it exempts 61,000 more businesses from it by moving the threshold up to 4 million. Now, I got it. You're the governor. You got to wait and see what the legislature does. But what are your thoughts on this issue related to the margins tax specifically?
Well, you know, the margins tax is also known as the business franchise tax. This is a tax on business, and it is the worst, most idiotic tax ever created because it imposes a tax on businesses that are losing money. And it is driving up the cost of compliance. And I made very clear from the very beginning of this legislative session that I will veto any budget passed by the Texas legislature that does not cut the margins business franchise tax. Now, Texas is pretty good nationally. We rank about number 10 nationally, as in 10th best nationally, for tax burden. But you know what? 10th best is not good enough for me. Yeah. If we can eliminate the business franchise tax and have no income tax, businesses will be banging down our door to come to the state of Texas and create new jobs. So here's what my focus is. I want to see a tax reduction that will create the most jobs. And I know that by reducing and eliminating the business franchise tax, that is the way we can create the most new jobs, put more money into the pockets of those who create jobs, and stimulate the Texas economy even more.
I want to ask you this question. We had the first time of a job loss in 53 months. Interesting how dynamic Texas is. The unemployment rate fell. we've been adding jobs. This is really 20 years we've led the nation now. It's not just the last oil boom. We had the report out Friday from the Workforce Commission. 53 first job lost, though, in 53 months. Any comment?
Well, obviously, the reason for that is because of the drop in oil prices, and that has caused a tremendous pullback, not just in the oil and gas industry, but also the service industry that works with all the oil and gas companies, as well as it could even be the hospitality industry. I was staying at a hotel in Midland, Texas about a month ago, and I saw an empty parking lot at the time. And so that was a sign of the times that we're dealing with right now. But listen, this is something that Texas has been through before. As we say, this is not our first rodeo. And so we're going to come back even stronger than we were before. But it's important for people to understand that during times like this, this is why we are working on diversifying our economy, so that we are less reliant upon the oil and gas industry, and we have so much more going on. High tech, it could be manufacturing, it could be healthcare. We have so many areas in which we are growing in the number of employees and growing our industry. And so we will continue to diversify our economy and keep Texas #1 in the nation.
Let me ask you this question. The Senate passed an $811 million border security measure. What was that, yesterday, I think? It all blends together. But the House has a little bit different version. There have been, there are just some people that want to pretend there's no problem on the border, particularly from the upper Rio Grande. I'm just shocked constantly to hear the comments as if everything's okay. Never mind bullets hit the city hall, hit a high school, hit UTEP. I don't get that. But we've got to do something related to border security. You campaigned on that. There seems to be a little bit different vision from the House and the Senate. What is it you would like to see the legislature do? What is the most important, maybe the #1 priority in, is it the DPS beef up and getting them there? Talk a little bit about that.
It's achieving my strategy of securing the border. First, we need to understand this is a federal responsibility, but Texas is not going to stand idly by waiting for the federal government to do their job. So we will step up, and we are going to secure the border. We're going to do this. We're going to add 500 more Department of Public Safety officers along the border. We're going to add about 20 to 25 more Texas Rangers. We're going to add tools and technology, which includes airplanes who are able to see things from the sky, boats on the water, about 4,000 more cameras along the border so we can see every square inch of the entire border, letting us know where, when, and how the cross-border traffic is coming. Let me emphasize this one key point, and that is it doesn't matter who is coming across the border right now. It could be people who are coming here from Iraq, or it could be people who are coming here from our neighbor. They're typically coming here because they're paying money to cartels to bring them here. This is a multi-billion-dollar business for the cartels. My goal is to put the cartels out of business. We will put them out of business by securing the border and make them take their business elsewhere.
Well, very good. Governor Abbott, it is a delight to be with you. Thank you for joining us on this most important day, Victory in Texas Day, San Jacinto Day.
Thank you. It's an honor.
All right, my friends, we'll be back in a moment on Pratt on Texas. Stay with us.